Since you are trying so hard to sell dream service to me, I guess I really should experience it at least once while I am here, Valefor said, making a start smile with anticipation. The Red Song territory never had such a high-level patron before. She definitely wanted to get the heavenly devil addicted to her territory services so she could earn more high-quality materials from him. Astarte felt an insatiable appetite for more decamillennium-year blazewood branches. After all, the decamillennium-year blazewood was a priceless material for weapon forging. Although it was originally a tenacious wood, it acquired some toughness of metal and absorbed the destructiveness of fire.n/o/vel/b/in. As long as it could be refined with some supplementary materials, a peerless divine weapon with the power of the eternal purple flame could be born. Why wouldn't any weapon refiner be interested in tackling such a challenge? Alas, Astarte's ambitious goal was shattered by Valefor's following comment, not now, though, later. I want to take a look at your forges and see how divine weapons are refined. You understood, Your Excellency, Astarte acknowledged, feeling slightly disappointed. Nevertheless, she quickly fixed her expression and then proceeded to lead Valefor to the Dark Dwarves' Forge District. Although the Dark Dwarves took on most of the weapon refining orders in the business, Valefor didn't believe they possessed the best divine weapon refining technique in the Red Song territory. After all, how could the best divine weapons be carelessly sold to everyone? That was like boosting the strength of their competitors and undermining their own strength. As such, the divine weapons created by the Dark Dwarf clan had to be at least one rank lower than what Astarte could make. Even so, the Dark Dwarf clan's divine weapon refining techniques were still centuries ahead of Pangaea. They were worth looking at. Nevertheless, the main purpose of Valefor's trip to the Dark Dwarf clan's Forge District was not to look at the Dark Dwarf clan's divine weapon refining techniques. Since Valefor was going to get the best divine weapon refining technique from Astarte, he didn't care too much about the Dark Dwarf clan's divine weapon refining techniques. Even if he had learned Astarte's divine weapon refining technique, he wouldn't have wanted to spend all his time refining divine weapons. As such, his main purpose for visiting the Dark Dwarf clan's Forge District was to study the Dark Dwarves and recruit some weapon refiners to work for him. With Astarte's divine weapon refining technique, it shouldn't be difficult to poach some Dark Dwarves and bring them back to his own territory. Regardless of their innate attribute, dwarves were famous for their craftsmanship and love for metal. As such, the Dark Dwarf clan could be tasked to build high-level cities with sophisticated designs and architecture. They didn't have to be limited to weapon refinement. When Valefor and Astarte arrived at the Dark Dwarf clan's Forge District, they immediately felt the sharp increase in heat. The booming industry of weapon refining was filled with the smothering hot flames from furnaces and the thunderous strikes of hammers. It was also very rowdy. Curses and spits flew around as the Dark Dwarves urged each other to work harder and faster. It was as if they were seriously behind on their orders. However, that was not the case. They were just diligent and passionate in their craft. In the Divine Weapon Research section, a senior Divine Weapon researcher searched the area with urgency, seemingly looking for someone but couldn't find the person. Damn it. The furnaces have been fired up, and work has commenced more than 2 hours ago. Why isn't Team Leader Rudrek here to lead the project yet? If this continues, we will lose to Team 2. Team Leader Rudrek went to bust his load over at Sweet Pink District again, Senior Gilmuller. You know how he is. What the hell is Team Leader Rudrek doing there at this time of the day? We are in the middle of a competition with Team 2, for fuck's sakes. Can we do nothing but watch Team 2 take the lead in designing their new divine weapon while we wait? Sorry for being late, everyone. There was a bit of traffic on the way. Just as Gilmuller was feeling hopeless, Team Leader Rudrek arrived with a timely apology. Gilmuller became even more upset due to his casual attitude. The team leader was not taking the competition seriously. You are letting the whole team down, Team Leader. We are still waiting for your new divine weapon design. We can't start unless you provide it. Are you even taking this competition seriously? Of course I am. What other reason do I have for going over to the Sweet Pink District to bust a load at this time of the day? Team Leader Rudrek's reply immediately dumbfounded the whole of Team 1. Not long after, they cursed furiously. What kind of bullshit reason is that? What the hell does your private business have to do with our competition? Of course, it has everything to do with it. If I don't bust a nut, how could I possibly come up with the best weapon design to help us win? If I don't nut before designing our new weapon, we won't be able to stand a chance of winning. Furthermore, this is a competition, not a race. Relax, Gilmuller. Gilmuller almost coughed up blood in anger. He had never heard such twisted logic. There is something wrong with your head, Team Leader. I think you have gone crazy from visiting the Sweet Pink District too much. Sigh. You don't understand a thing, Gilmuller. Nutting helps me think. You must be dreaming if you expect me to come up with a good weapon design without post-nut clarity. That would be pre-nut delusion. Are you actually being serious, Team Leader? Gilmuller was speechless. Hey, you can question my methods, but you shouldn't doubt my genius, Rudrek coolly stated before mentioning, I have won countless weapon design awards this way. It's been tried and tested. If you can't trust my words, then you should at least trust my design, Rudrek said, unrolling a divine weapon design blueprint on the work table for everyone to see. When Gilmuller and the other team members saw the exquisite weapon design, they quickly sucked in a mouthful of air. They had never seen such a unique and interesting sword design. It made their blood pumped with excitement. They couldn't wait to work on it. Rudrek certainly didn't become their team leader by luck. Everyone had no choice but to acknowledge his ability. What an interesting person. Valefor smiled with amusement, having witnessed the entire quarrel from a distance with Astarte. Previous chapter. You wouldn't mind if I said I wanted to take this person, right? Valefor asked shortly after. Not at all, Your Excellency. Astarte shook her head with an ugly expression before saying, he is not anyone important. If Your Excellency is interested in this kind of person, you can feel free to take him away. Astarte couldn't be happier to get rid of the unsightly dark dwarf. Although the Red Song territory was heavily focused on the pleasure business, its standards were no longer the same as they were in the past. They no longer cater their services to just any client. Even if their clients weren't wealthy, they had to possess a certain level of decorum and understand etiquette. This required to turn the pleasure business into a higher-end service. After all, the divine weapon business was very profitable and offered complimentary pleasure services with every purchase. Its clients were all wealthy beings with certain levels of status and power. Astarte didn't want her potential customers to see their complimentary pleasure services as cheap benefits. She wanted them to be regarded as luxury privileges. Strict standards were needed to raise the value of their services. As such, Astarte did not wish to see a black sheep like team leader Rudrek infecting the divine weapon refining business with his vulgarity. It would seriously affect their reputation and value if everyone heeded his twisted logic. Are you sure you don't want to keep him? He seems to be talented. It doesn't matter, we don't lack this kind of talent, Your Excellency. Team leader Rudrek was just a weapon designer, and the only important thing about a weapon design was its appeal to potential buyers. It didn't necessarily improve the properties and power of the divine weapon. N/O/vel/B/in.C/in.C///om. As such, weapon designers weren't very important, weapon quality was more important than weapon aesthetics. I see, Valefor calmly nodded. He made sure to remember team leader Rudrek's appearance for later. Regardless of the dark dwarf's quirks, such a talented person should be recruited. Nevertheless, Valefor wasn't in such a hurry to poach dwarven artisans. He followed Astarte as she guided him through the forge district. He witnessed the production of various divine weapons in the making. Whether it was the choice of fire, material, anvil, hammering strength, or technique, everything was meticulously selected depending on the type of divine weapon in creation. Nevertheless, Valefor was impressed by the Red Song territory's resources. There were thousands of furnaces and hundreds of different flames. Moreover, they weren't weak flames either. Most of the flames in Red Song territory's possession were at least transcendent rank flames. Only a dozen flames were at the divine rank. Even so, they were only the weakest of the divine rank flames. That said, the divine rank flames weren't always useful, transcendent rank flames could sometimes be more useful depending on the processing material. In the dwarven language, they call it, metal chooses its fire. Depending on the right combination of flames and metals, a stronger processed material could be obtained. The strength of a material was just limited to its sturdiness or sharpness. The material's special abilities, elemental affinity, and magic conductivity were also taken into consideration if they had any. The final grade of the material was only determined after all its properties were measured. What made the Red Song territory's divine weapon so special was naturally their impressive power. They don't maximize their users' existing potential. Instead, they empower them. A rank 1 mortal could wield the power of a transcendent when equipped with a rank 5 divine weapon. Even if the energy inside the divine weapon could be exhausted, such a feat was still undoubtedly impressive. A weak army of mortals could suddenly become a strong army of experts as long as there were enough high-quality divine weapons to equip all its soldiers. Valefor knew the most powerful and complicated divine weapons were those with weapon cultivation skills and techniques sealed inside them. Such divine weapons didn't require the user to learn and practice the weapon cultivation skills and techniques. They only needed to wield the divine weapons to understand how to use them immediately. Nevertheless, no matter how powerful divine weapons were, they still had one serious restriction. No matter how incompetent their wielders were, their wielders' bodies had to be strong enough to withstand the burden of drawing in their powers. Otherwise, the wielders' bodies would only be destroyed, causing internal injuries in light cases and permanent disabilities or even death in severe cases. Valefor didn't believe Astarte herself could have created such a miraculous divine weapon refining technique. He was more inclined to think she had stumbled upon it from some inheritance site or tomb. After Astarte finished giving Valefor a tour, she took out a black manual and handed it over to him. The black manual had been worn and torn over a long passage of time, it was a clear indicator of its old age. Although it also possessed a breath of ancientness, it was nowhere close to the primordial era, it was only a little more than 10 million years old. Surprisingly, it didn't have any impressive name, Divine Weapon Refining Art was simply written on the front cover. Valefor also found out that the Divine Weapon Refining Art belonged to someone called Divine Artificer Master Arakias. Moreover, this Divine Artificer Master Arakias seemed to have only been an outer disciple of a place called the Divine Weapon Refining Sect. This Divine Weapon Refining Art is something I found by chance in the outermost region of the Great Divider Void, Astarte explained after noticing Valefor's interest. If your excellency is interested, you can visit that place to try your luck. However, most of the treasures lying in that place have already been scavenged by others. It'll be difficult to find any more, Astarte commented. The region of junk in the Great Divider Void was a place she frequented to collect raw materials for her Red Song territory's weapon refining business. It was hard to say she didn't hold any hopes of finding treasures. However, the divine weapon refining art was the only time she had found something more valuable than the broken junk she usually gathered. Even so, it was enough for her to win over the Dark Dwarf clan and turn her weapon refining business into the prominent divine weapon refining business. Previous chapter. Profound Pearl of Life. As Vaan followed the instructions of the divine refining life art to gather and manipulate life energy, he discovered it shared many similarities with spirit energy. It wasn't just the energies themselves but also the methods of circulating to refine them. N/O/vel/b/in.c//in.c//om. In other words, the divine refining life art was like a spirit energy cultivation method, or rather, it was a spirit energy cultivation method that had been designed to utilize life energy effectively. Vaan couldn't help but wonder if all existing energy cultivation methods had branched out from the energy cultivation methods of the primordial era. Although the divine refining life art's learning restriction wasn't limited to a specific race, it was undoubtedly most suitable to humans due to its similarities with spirit energy cultivation. As such, Vaan discovered that he could refine life energy more effectively and efficiently through the existing pathways within his human body. He didn't need to create a circulation route outside of his body since it matched the one in humans. Thanks to his prior experience with the everlasting blood mantra, cultivating the divine refining life art to the initial success stage was almost effortless. The soft, pale particles of life energy were transformed into a brilliant spark of luminescent white light. Vaan found it interesting to observe the molecular movements of the refined life energy. It seemed to contain the secrets and miracles of life. It was the spark of civilization, the paint that gave color to the universe. Ding! You have successfully cultivated the divine refining life art to the initial success stage. Your understanding of the life law has increased. Your comprehension of the life law has surpassed 1%. You have acquired the authority of life. Life manipulation has been added to your skills. Your lifespan has increased by 500 years. Vaan was immediately surprised to see his lifespan increase by a substantial amount after cultivating the divine refining life art to the initial success stage. Moreover, the comprehension of the life law was done so easily with just a brief look. If he could observe the molecular movements of refined life energy at higher stages of mastery in the divine refining life art, his comprehension of the life law would likely improve even faster. As such, Vaan wholeheartedly immersed himself in the cultivation of the divine refining art life. While he was at it, he did not forget to release Topaz, Emerald, and Ruby out to play. He wouldn't selfishly monopolize the benefits of the profound pearl of life and forget about his spirits. Alas, although the three spirits were excited to come to play, it was short-lived before panic seeped into their hearts, especially Topaz and Emerald. Q. Mew, mew, mew. Topaz and Emerald cried in alarm. The two poor souls found themselves floating in space helplessly. The more they tried to retain control of their movements by flailing their small limbs, the more helplessly they spun in space. On the other hand, Ruby quickly learned to navigate through the unfamiliar space with ease after her initial panic. It wasn't a difficult task for a spirit of fire. Nevertheless, the universe inside the profound pearl of life was unlike the void of space in other universes. It was filled with life energy. As such, trying to move in a region of highly concentrated life energy wasn't too different from trying to swim in a body of water. Nevertheless, Topaz and Emerald weren't quick to adapt to the new environment. Thus, they continued to flail their limbs wildly in an attempt to regain control of their bodies. Their world seemed to spin faster and faster, making them dizzy and disoriented. The rapidly changing scenery made them suspect something was wrong with their vision. Phew, Ruby giggled as she watched Topaz and Emerald's helpless states. She couldn't help but rejoice at how the tables have turned. As the third contracted spirit of Vaan, Ruby was also considered the youngest of the three. Since she was also stigmatized as the spirit of misfortune due to her constant bad luck back in the land of fire, she was timid and had low self-esteem. As a result, she was easily bullied by Topaz, the big sister of the trio. Now that she saw Topaz and Emerald struggling in the new environment, she felt like their positions had been reversed, making her the new big sister. Ruby circled around Topaz and Emerald with a half-curious, half-amusing look as she watched the spectacle. As long as the two of them calmed down, they would realize the situation was not as bad as they thought. In fact, the environment was very pleasant, comfortable, and free. Topaz and Emerald's struggles were like that of a fish drowning because it couldn't swim. Naturally, Ruby would find it amusing. Phew. Do you need help? Q. Yes. Please help me. Phew, foo. But, I don't wanna. Q. Screw you. Hearing Topaz shriek with indignation, Ruby chuckled gleefully before moving to Emerald. However, Ruby didn't try to harass Emerald. In fact, she wanted to help her. After all, unlike Topaz, who bullied her before, Emerald hadn't really done anything. On the contrary, Emerald was quite fearful of her. Emerald was the most timid and gentle spirit in the group. As such, Emerald's pitiful state easily awakened Ruby's compassion and sympathy. Unfortunately, she was also afraid of burning her again. She could only offer vocal assistance. Phew, foo. My, mew. Following Ruby's reassurance and calm instructions, Emerald eventually managed to stabilize her movements and learn how to maneuver in the unfamiliar environment. However, Topaz also did the same after eavesdropping on them. Ruby immediately had a bad feeling as she glanced at Topaz. The latter was taking baby steps, but surely approaching her. More importantly, she did not look happy. Phew. Can we talk this out, big sister? Violence is not the answer. Q. No, it is the question, and the answer is always yes. Phew. Ah. Second sister, save me. Ruby timidly fled from Topaz while the latter gave chase with a malicious smile that shortly turned gloomy and depressed. Topaz simply couldn't catch up to Ruby. Seeing how Topaz was unable to catch up with her, Ruby's nervous heart quickly calmed down, and her courage re-inflated. Phew. He. What's wrong? You can't catch me? Q. Just you wait. Topaz gnashed her teeth as she watched Ruby provoke her while maintaining a safe yet infuriating distance from her. Ruby showcased her free-spiritedness by lying on her back as she faced Topaz with a relaxed look. Jets of flames would burst from her feet to propel her away whenever Topaz got dangerously close. At the same time, a wave of heat would greet Topaz's face each time, enraging her further. Although Topaz desperately tried to close the distance, she found it impossible to do. Topaz was just like an amateur frog-stroke swimmer who lacked form and could only try to increase her speed through brute strength. On the other hand, Ruby was a free rider tied to the end of a speedboat. Nevertheless, while Topaz and Ruby were busy with their game of cat and mouse, Emerald had unknowingly entered a state of deep meditation. The life energies from the unborn universe seemed to resonate with her as they were naturally drawn to her. They easily merged with her spirit body and became a part of her strength. Emerald was simple-minded and pure. Even with the influx of life energies increasing her power, she did not try to take control of the life energies. Instead, she let the abundant life energies pour into her spirit body freely. The natural flow of life energy was the most suited to her growth. Within a short period, Emerald easily advanced her spirit rank several times, reaching peak rank 4 without losing momentum. As life energies continued to pour into her spirit body, her strength grew, seemingly without limits. Ka-cha. The barrier to becoming a transcendent rankwood spirit was easily overcome. It was as if bottlenecks were non-existent. Even after reaching rank 5, Emerald's power continued to grow, albeit at a slower rate. Nevertheless, with each consecutive minor rank advancement, a strange white flower bud would blossom on her head. They were like white lilies, except they were made from pure energy and contained an indescribable power or ability. Emerald's power didn't just increase significantly. She seemed to have evolved or awakened into something more than just a wood spirit. She had inherited the life attribute. A strong yet gentle and pure aura of life surrounded her being, inspiring worship and respect from other wood spirits. Emerald seemed to have become a spirit of life. Elder Willowthorn and the other wood spirits couldn't help but pause their cultivation to offer their respect. NOV.LB/JNN. As Emerald basked in holy white light and underwent a radiant transformation, they felt like they were witnessing the birth of the life goddess. Diseases and death would flee from her, and darkness could not dim her radiance. Perhaps only now Emerald could be considered a true holy wood spirit, the symbol of the wood spirit race's prosperity. Nevertheless, Emerald was not the only spirit to have undergone significant changes in a short time. Whether it was Elder Willowthorn or the other wood spirits in the Garden of Thaya, they had all received the blessings of life energies, which loosened the bottleneck on their chance of evolution. Even the revitalizing divine tree of life was brought back to life under the influence of Emerald's holy aura and the profound pearl of life's boundless life energy. Originally, it shouldn't have been possible unless the seed of the world tree created from the divine tree of life's essence was planted and germinated. However, the simplest touch of Emerald's holy aura could spur vital growth in weak plants and give birth to new ones. Given most of the divine tree of life's essence was still buried in the Garden of Thaya's soil, it didn't seem as surprising to see the divine tree of life come back to life after being bathed in Emerald's holy aura. Elder Willowthorn and the other wood spirit couldn't help but feel emotional after witnessing the true power of the holy wood spirit. Holy wood spirits was simply a blessing to all plantile life forms. With the revival of the divine tree of life came a new wave of life energy washing over the region like a tsunami. It was like the silent roar of a powerful life form that had just emerged victoriously from a tough battle. Of course, it had been easy for the divine tree of life to put itself in a death-like state with no hope of reawakening on its own. After the first wave of life energy, a second, a third, and a fourth wave followed like a pulse. The divine tree of life greedily devoured the life energy from the profound pearl of life before releasing it in greater abundance. It didn't take long before the region occupied by the Garden of Thaya became heavily concentrated with life energy. Although the divine tree of life was revived ahead of time, the seed of the world tree in Vaan's possession did not become a useless object. After all, it possessed the divine tree of life's essence. It could still become an offshoot that shared the divine tree of life's consciousness. If planted outside, it could become the divine tree of life's extended eyes and ears. Elder Willowthorn and the older generation of the wood spirits couldn't help but shed tears emotionally as they welcomed the return of their mother tree. "We miss you so much, Mother. I have missed you all too, my children." The wood spirits and mother tree conveyed their heartfelt feelings to each other. The mother tree had given the wood spirits life and nurtured them when they were small, helpless, and uneducated. Thus, she would always be their mother, no matter how big and mighty they may grow. Shortly after the wood spirits stabilized their emotions, the mother tree's consciousness shifted her focus elsewhere. Unknowingly, Emerald's spirit body had become completely wrapped in white light like a cocoon with zero indications of emerging anytime soon. The mother tree extended her vine-like roots and gently wrapped around the cocoon before reeling it into her embrace. The Holy Wood Spirit's evolution was safer under her protection. It was the least she could do for her benefactor. Previous chapter. Meanwhile, Topaz and Ruby continued their game of cat and mouse. Of course, Ruby was the only one who was actually enjoying the game. Her giggles became fuel for Topaz's anger. Topaz, on the other hand, was constantly fuming with a red face. Every time she got close, Ruby would get away. She knew Ruby was toying with her, but she couldn't stop. She didn't want to give up, not with a belly full of frustration and anger. Huff. Puff. Since her old tactics didn't work, Topaz began exploring new ways to increase speed. The method she came up with was to inhale as much life energy as she could and blow it all out for propulsion. Of course, the small burst of speed wasn't worth mentioning. It did not change the status quo between her and Ruby. However, every time Topaz inhaled large quantities of life energy, they would compress within her small spirit body and leave a minuscule fraction of it. Furthermore, this minuscule fraction of compressed life energy would then be absorbed by her spirit body, becoming part of her strength. The upper limit of her mana capacity increased as mana filled her body. Ka-cha. Topaz advanced a level and became a mid-level rank 4 Earth Spirit. Although her spirit body became slightly larger, it was hardly noticeable due to the life energy being constantly compressed within her small spirit body. It compressed all her power and made room for more energy, only to be compressed again. Under the repetitive process of energy compression and absorption, Topaz advanced again, becoming a high-level rank 4 Earth Spirit. Her small spirit body became larger again by a tiny degree. Although Topaz was constantly improving and at an increasing rate, she didn't seem to notice or care. She only had a single-minded desire to catch the audacious Ruby and put her back in her place. How could she let the little sister ride over the big sister's head? Ka-cha. A few hours later, Topaz advanced a few more times, finally reaching rank 5 and becoming a transcendent rank Earth Spirit. She was no longer the size of a pixie but an 8-year-old little girl. Nevertheless, Topaz still didn't seem to notice the great changes in her body despite becoming countless times stronger under the blessing of life energy. However, it wasn't just a quantitative change but a qualitative one. Topaz did not know she had evolved and was no longer a simple Earth fairy. The only thing she was aware of was her growing determination to catch Ruby. Meanwhile, Ruby started to feel regret. After being chased for so long, Ruby noticed Topaz had been getting faster and faster. While the latter was somehow improving, she was not. Moreover, she was already bored of their chasing game after the first half an hour. Unfortunately, even if Ruby wanted to end the game, Topaz would not let her off. She had already ridden the tiger, and it was impossible to hop off. As long as Topaz chased her, Ruby could only keep running. Q. Get back here. Facing Topaz's furious roar, Ruby suddenly had a bad feeling. The moment she looked back at Topaz, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Phew. What in the world? Ruby cried with alarm and took off with all her strength. The instantaneous burst of speed immediately generated a huge distance between her and Topaz. However, it didn't get rid of the shock and fright in her heart. Topaz's hand, which had tried to her, suddenly grew bigger by thousands of folds as it closed in on her. Following the rapid growth of Topaz's hand, the rest of her body also became equally enormous. Within mere moments, Topaz had suddenly transformed into a colossal being. She was like a mountain god, unreasonably huge beyond belief. It was so absurd to the eyes of the onlookers. Pure shock and disbelief could be seen on Elder Willowthorn's face. It was hard not to see the two spirits chasing each other. However, nothing could have prepared him for something like this. Were all of Vaan's contracted spirits so extraordinary? Or was it due to the benefits provided by the profound pearl of life? Heck, it could even be due to a combination of the two that he could witness such an absurd transformation. What kind of gigantification ability could grow the user's body by thousands of folds? Thousands of folds might not even be the limit. Elder Willowthorn was suddenly reminded that they were inside an unborn universe. The birth of a new universe has always been accompanied by the mythical age of gods and devils. The miracle of evolution hidden in the boundless life energy wasn't something that could be comprehended with mortal logic. Elder Willowthorn thought he understood the value of the profound pearl of life. However, it seemed he had still underestimated it. This true divinity-level heavenly treasure was something that even Empyrean gods would crazily fight for. Raw power. It caused the very space to vibrate. Ruby felt even more fearful and weak after hearing it. That colossal spirit. It had the body of a giant but the voice of a devil. Why did she stir the hornet's nest and wake up the sleeping demon? Phew. I give up. Please spare me, big sister. Q. No. Come back here and receive your punishment. Ruby wanted to cry. As Vaan continued to cultivate the divine refining life art, he became increasingly proficient in circulating and refining his life energy. It only took him 2 hours to reach the great success stage and 6 hours to master it. After achieving mastery of the divine refining life art, it was only a matter of repeating the process and accumulating the refined life energy to increase his cultivation level. However, although the divine refining life art could be treated as a core energy cultivation method, it was more of a supplementary energy cultivation art. As such, it could supplement his existing energy cultivation instead of replacing it. Moreover, he had already practiced energy cultivation and reached the early stage Heaven Ascension realm. His lower dantian was already filled with divine energy. After Vaan introduced a thread of refined life energy into his lower dantian, he saw it mixed well with his existing divine energy without facing any form of rejection. In fact, the thread of refined life energy improved the quality of his divine energy and strengthened his energy cultivation. Nevertheless, Vaan wasn't willing, nor was he planning to increase his energy cultivation further. He didn't believe he possessed enough energy cultivation methods to know he was cultivating the best energy cultivation method. As such, it was unwise to increase his energy cultivation blindly, lest he end up hitting an unbeatable bottleneck. Empyrean Scarletzia's true divinity-level energy cultivation method, the Empyrean Phoenix Flame Art, might be able to help him become an Empyrean God-level energy cultivator. However, his goal wasn't to become an Empyrean God but far beyond it. Moreover, the Empyrean Phoenix Flame Art was heavily focused on the fire law. It required using the fire law as the core to understand and step into the divine way. Considering he had already comprehended several laws, some of which were even stronger than his fire law, the Empyrean Phoenix Flame Art was unsuitable for him. As such, he wasn't willing to cultivate beyond the Heaven Ascension realm and enter the Truth Manifestation realm. He needed a cultivation method that could encompass everything. Nevertheless, the Divine Refining Life Art's supplementary aspects weren't limited to energy cultivation. In fact, Vaan speculated that the strongest supplementary aspects of the Divine Refining Life Art could be found in body cultivation. Since it was a divine art that could utilize refined life energy to treat all injuries and diseases, it would naturally also heal any tears and ease any burdens brought by overworking the body. After refining a new strand of life energy, Vaan immediately dispersed it throughout his body instead of sending it to his lower dantian.n/o/vel/b/in.c//in.c//om. The cooling sensation brought by the flow of refined life energy coursing through his body helped invigorate him. Any fatigue in his body was washed away, and any hidden injuries were treated. However, his body was already the epitome of healthiness. Thus, the excess energy looked for other ways to blend into his body. As a result, his flesh, muscles, bones, blood, and organs were all strengthened. The imperfections of his body were slightly corrected to match that one that could host a higher life form. After seeing how beneficial the refined life energy was to his body, Vaan began practicing the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art and Divine Refining Life Art simultaneously. The previous burden on his blood vessels brought by the rapid increase in his aura cultivation was eliminated by the power of refined life energy. Wherever his blood vessels would strain and tear due to the tyrannical power of his dragon aura, the refined life energy would repair and strengthen. As such, Vaan's aura cultivation was no longer restricted from making rapid progress. Even if his body broke down, he had refined life energy to keep it together. Ding! Your aura power has surpassed 3,250 units. Your aura cultivation has advanced to middle stage demigod. After making the breakthrough, Vaan discovered a new problem. By the time he reached peak stage demigod in his aura cultivation, he was unlikely to proceed any further due to multiple reasons. His peak rank aura cultivation method, the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art, only allowed him to cultivate his aura to the peak stage demigod rank to begin with. Beyond the demigod rank was a new territory of aura cultivation that had not been explored yet. His aura would have to undergo some sort of qualitative transformation before it could surpass the demigod rank. Another reason was the conflict between his Heavenly Formless Dragon Art and his Everlasting Blood Refining Art. Although his aura power was stored in his middle dantian, heart, and his blood energy was stored in his bone marrow, they both required blood to produce. Furthermore, there was only so much room in the heart and bone marrow. As such, once the heart and bone marrow were filled up, his aura power and blood energy needed to expand into new territories if new spaces couldn't be created. The two powers didn't directly clash with each other like fire and water, but they did compete in a tug of war for more resources. Even if Vaan hadn't cultivated the Everlasting Blood Refining Art, he would have eventually encountered the same problem once the aura power of his Heavenly Formless Dragon Art reached peak stage demigod level. In other words, Heavenly Formless Dragon Art was the problem. The Everlasting Blood Refining Art didn't have a problem with the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art as long as it didn't encroach on its territory. However, the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art needed more space to store its aura power. Although storing the aura power inside the heaven-swallowing space could fix the problem, it would only be a temporary solution. After all, his aura power would only lose its potency and dissipate if it was away from his physical body for too long. His aura cultivation level would eventually decline as a result of it. Even if he could produce aura power faster than its dissipation rate, he would only be increasing the quantity of his aura power and not its quality. As such, unless he solved the root of the problem, his aura cultivation to the divine level. What can be done to solve this? Vaan pondered. The power of bloodline and blood energy from the Everlasting Blood Refining Art was impossible to move elsewhere as it could only exist within the blood and wherever it flowed. If it left the body for too long, it would die. On the other hand, the aura power of the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art was intangible and could be moved anywhere. The heart and blood vessels were where it was created but not necessarily where it needed to be stored. As long as the aura power was still within Vaan's body, logically, its potency shouldn't decline and dissipate. It didn't take much time for Vaan to come up with two possible solutions. The first solution was to merge the Heavenly Formless Dragon Art and Everlasting Blood Refining Art, thereby transforming the two competing powers into one. Once they became the same source of power, they would naturally no longer wrestle for blood energy in space. However, this solution came with two main challenges. Merging the heavenly formless dragon art and everlasting blood refining art in itself was an impossibly difficult idea to realize. It was not the same as merging the everlasting blood mantra and divine blood refining art, these two blood cultivation methods. It was trying to fuse the divine arts of two different cultivation systems. Although heaven and earth shared the same sky, they did not meet. The sky was the connection between heaven and earth, but it also separated the two. As such, heaven and earth could not become one. However, if it was made possible by a powerful will, a miraculous new power would be born. Furthermore, the heavenly formless dragon art wouldn't need to be developed further to pave the way to the divine. Vaan didn't doubt the fusion power of aura and bloodline would be incredibly powerful. Still, it did not change the fact that the idea was difficult to realize. As such, Vaan leaned towards the second possible solution, to fuse the aura power back into his body and become one with it instead. While this method was also not an easy task, the difficulty was much lower than the first option. After all, the heavenly formless dragon art, in essence, was a body cultivation method. Although it had incorporated aura cultivation into it, it was also undeniable that a crucial aspect of the cultivation method was to strengthen the body to the limit. It was a mixed aura and body cultivation method designed to maximize the body's physical potential. When human muscles could not exert the desired physical power, aura power was there to augment what was lacking and surpass the human limit. In retrospect, aura power was the manifestation of mankind's desire for physical power that would allow men to stand head-to-head with the magic of witches. That was how aura was created, born from men's will and manifested in their blood by their body's innate mana. It was a power that mimicked magic but wasn't magic, granted physical power but wasn't physical power either. Aura power existed in the physical body but was also separate from it. When Vaan pondered on the origins of aura power, he gained great insights and understood the desired direction of his body cultivation. Recalling some fragmented memories of Varuna, Vaan had also come to realize that the present divine beings were not as powerful as the divine beings from the primordial era. Immortality was easier to obtain in the present era, but the associated power with the realm was a far cry from the past. However, if he could fuse aura and body to become what should have originally been one, he felt like he might gain some insights into the secret strength of the primordial body refiners. For that purpose, Vaan began to dig deep into all the memories of his past life, salvaging whatever knowledge he could find on body refining. No matter how trivial the information seemed, he would still collect it and organize it all into a mental folder for body cultivation. Time slowly passed as Vaan entered deep meditation. 1 hour became 2, and 2 hours became 4. After 8 hours had gone by, Vaan's eyes suddenly snapped open with a bright gleam. He had finished organizing the information on primordial body cultivation. He infused its essence into the heavenly formless dragon art to create a more powerful body cultivation method. Ding! You have successfully created the heaven-forging dragon art, divine rank. Warning! You have created a body cultivation method the current heaven cannot tolerate. Warning! Cultivating the heaven-forging dragon art may attract heavenly tribulation of punishment, divine damnation, NOV/LB/JNN. Vaan couldn't help but smile with anticipation and eagerness. The warnings from the system could not make his heart waver, it only served to strengthen his conviction. He was going to cultivate the heaven-forging dragon art regardless. The meaning behind its name was also quite simple, to use the power of heaven to forge a body comparable to the dragons. Although dragons were no longer as impressive as they were in the present era of chaos, they used to be the symbol of absolute strength and authority in the primordial age. The power of heaven also referred to the boundless life energy within the unborn universe of the profound pearl of life. As such, the heaven-forging dragon art was actually more imposing than what others might give it credit for. The first step Vaan had devised for the heaven-forging dragon art was to form an aura avatar with his accumulated dragon aura. While this step in itself wasn't difficult to achieve, the challenge lay in the fact that it had to be perfectly superimposed on his body. He needed enough aura to align and match every cell. The second step required a perfect fusion of the body and aura avatar. Every fiber of his physical being had to incorporate the properties of his dragon aura. Not only would this step be excruciatingly painful, akin to breaking down every part of his body, but it also required a tremendous amount of life energy to force the fusion process. Without an iron will, a temporary lapse in judgment during the process could result in death. It was a dangerous step that every mortal being had to go through when forging their divine body. Nevertheless, the spiritualization process was bound to be quite different for Vaan. While others would acquire a lighter divine body that could accept the powers of the heavenly laws more easily, he would have a heavier and denser body that could resist them. Vaan did not know that in the current era of chaos, the number of beings that achieved the divine way through body cultivation was almost non-existent. It was just too difficult since almost everyone in chaos was born with a semi-spiritualized body. As such, body cultivation was also uncommon, while energy cultivation and soul cultivation were mainstream. Vaan conditioned his mental and physical states as he prepared to cultivate the heaven-forging dragon art. He was rather curious about heaven's punishment. How powerful was the divine damnation? What form would it take? Where would it come from? Vaan wondered if heaven's punishment would even reach him. After all, he was inside of the profound pearl of life, a separate universe. Even if the heavenly laws of chaos could pinpoint his location, its punishment might not be able to enter the profound pearl of life. Considering the profound pearl of life was also a true divinity rank heavenly treasure, heaven's punishment shouldn't be powerful enough to break it. If heaven's punishment were truly that powerful, then Vaan would have no chance of surviving anyway, no matter where he hid or ran. After optimizing his condition, Vaan immediately started running the divine refining life art to gather life energy. The refined form of life energy was stored within the heaven-swallowing space shortly after. He did not consume the refined energy but stockpiled it. To ensure the success of cultivating the heaven-forging dragon art, his supply of refined life energy had to be abundant. After all, a tremendous amount was required during his cultivation. Having a shortage of refined life energy during the crucial moment would only lead to disastrous consequences. Since cultivating the heaven-forging dragon art was already considered an act against the heavens, how could Vaan take on the challenge half-heartedly? Unknowingly, an entire week of accumulating refined life energy passed by. Although Vaan's heaven-swallowing space was constantly expanded by life energy, the Death Eaters were still forced into a corner after refined life energy filled up the space. Nevertheless, Vaan made sure his accumulated life energy wouldn't wander into the Death Eaters' territory. He understood that life energy was like poison to them and vice versa. Nevertheless, once Vaan felt like he had accumulated enough refined life energy, he finally cultivated the heaven-forging dragon art. During this past week, Valefor had been a busy bee in Gehenna. After he had learned Astarte's divine weapon refining art, he poached 200 dark dwarves from the Red Song territory and brought them to the Evernight territory. Of course, Astarte was not happy with the decline in her workforce. However, 200 dark dwarves were only a small fraction of the dark dwarf clan living in the Red Song territory. Moreover, they weren't the most skilled craftsmen among their clan members. With the exception of team leader Rudrek, who was an eccentric but talented weapon designer, the rest of the poached dwarves had limited experiences in divine weapon refining. Furthermore, they were even considered neglected commoners within the dark dwarf clan. Even so, Valefor selected them because of their potential and not their talent. If they had any talent in divine weapon refining, they would have already proven themselves. They wouldn't necessarily leave the Red Song territory even if they were given opportunities elsewhere. However, it was also because Valefor promised them a stage and opportunity to showcase all their skills that the 200 dark dwarves easily followed them. In the Red Song territory, the quality and success rate of one's divine weapon refining were the main determining factors for a dark dwarf's talent and status. If their skills were poor, they would be frowned upon and ostracized. However, Valefor didn't care about this. He didn't need their divine weapon refining talents. He had a superior divine weapon refining art to compensate for their lacking talents. What he truly wanted was their skills in other fields of craftsmanship, such as construction, city planning, and tool refining. After gathering some resources from the Evernight territory, Valefor immediately gave them a huge task, to build a battle-class starship. Despite possessing the knowledge and skills to achieve it, no one in the Dark Dwarf clan had ever undertaken such a huge task. This was because it required tremendous resources and funds. Astarte never needed a battle-class starship, so the Dark Dwarf clan never had the opportunity to build one. Nevertheless, it was also for that reason that 200 poached dwarves were very excited to work on it. Even Rudrek, who followed Valefor after getting fired, became interested in joining the project. This was despite his original purpose to learn the divine weapon refining art from Valefor after receiving his enticement. As a result, he ended up becoming the project's head designer. Evernight Territory, Vladigold City. Although Abaddon's floating castle had been ransacked after his death, the treasury was slowly refilled after Mephistopheles, Balmodin, and Astarte returned their share of the loot. For the past week, Valefor had used the floating castle as his temporary base as he oversaw the project's progress from the sky and mobilized the remaining vampire lords to gather the materials required. Despite the vampire lords' shock when they saw Vaan's strength, they didn't dare to question a peak divine knight. Nevertheless, a huge project such as a battle-class starship undoubtedly put a strain on the Evernight territory's economy, especially since it had been plagued with chaos and disorder. The territory had neither recovered or been stable since Abaddon's death. Valefor's trip to the Shadowcage territory Sea of Darkness had been delayed due to recurring problems in the procurement of materials for the battle-class starship construction. The Evernight territory might have plenty of resources, but they still needed to be unearthed and processed. Considering most of the Evernight territory's labor force consisted of mortal livestock such as humans and other red-blooded life forms, the procurement of rare minerals was already expected to be slow. However, it became slower when the labor force experienced lethargy as a result of using blood currency to trade for daily necessities. Originally, the problem should have been solved within the first 3 days after Valefor supplied diluted life energy drinks to the labor force. Unfortunately, the same problem still persisted. The diluted life energy drinks might have restored miners' vitality, but they also made their blood so much more attractive to the vampires. As a result, there have been many incidents of miners getting seriously drained or killed due to uncontrolled bloodsucking. When 8th Progenitor, who had become Vaan's loyal dog, reported the persisting problem to Valefor, he felt deep dread. "I'm sorry, my lord. The young ones are just too unrestrained. However, I will definitely fix this problem as soon as possible," the 8th Progenitor promised on his knees, shivering in fear. "You said that 4 days ago, but the problem remains unchanged. It's clear that your methods aren't working," Valefor stated before coldly asking, "Do I need to personally wipe out the entire vampire race before this problem is no more?" "And no, my lord. This time, I will definitely succeed. Please give me 1 more day," the 8th Progenitor requested. "I'll give you half a day. If you fail again, I will slaughter half of the vampire race, and your direct lineage will be on my priority list. If you don't want that, bring me the head of all parties involved in the delay," Valefor coldly stated. N/O/vel/b/in.c/.om. "I understand, my lord," the 8th Progenitor acknowledged as he trembled in fear. Facing Valifor's incomparably thick killing intent, he did not doubt his words in the slightest, but truly believed them. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Report chapter